High school football is back, which means it is now time to talk to my good friend. He is back once again talking with me about high school football each and every week. My good friend Dan Gloster from Winchester's Classic Country 95.7. Dan, first and foremost, Happy New Year, sir. How was your off season?
It was good, man. How you been?
Doing well, just getting ready for high school football. It's just that time of year, Dan, it seems that you have the we had some cooler fall days. That crisp air in just high school football is right around the corner. You just can't shake that feeling.
No, you can't. And then, of course, we get reminded that it's still summer because this week, week one, I think it's going to creep close to 100 degrees on Wednesday. So that's kind of scary. But yes, I was very happy to see the cooler weather. But we're going to have to endure some hot temps, I think, before we really get into the football weather that we all enjoy.
This week into weekend, I tell you, there are a lot of good matchups ones you're covering, Dan. Obviously, the first matchup that is on your slate Thursday night, Millbrook hosting Harrisonburg. To my knowledge, last year, Kyler Jackson for Millbrook had an outstanding performance against Harrisonburg, and Millbrook has Jackson back, a few key returners, but some newcomers coming in as well. Just week one for Millbrook, obviously. I know we don't know a lot about these teams, but what have you sort of seen based off your analysis and preseason coverage of Millbrook going into this game against Harrisonburg?
Millbrook's going to have some shoes to fill on the line, but they've got a decent returning core that's going to definitely help them. Of course, running the single wing, I think last year, Josh, they might have thrown 20 passes total for the season. So Josh Haymore, again, running the single wing, and Kyler Jackson going to be the lead dog, if you will, in that attack. For Harrisonburg, their student body was split a little bit because of the new high school down there. So, good friend of mine, Mario Ritrosi, said that they're a Class 5 school still. Harrisonburg is, but they pretty much have a Class 3 student body size. So that's not going to help their cause. One thing I think they have a little bit of a benefit is that they did play Millbrook last year, so they'll be a little bit more used to trying to defend the single wing. But Thursday night, going to be interesting to see how both teams come out. The first game, you never know about. I think special teams is big because you really can't practice those in scrimmages. So special teams is always a key early on. If folks make positive plays or negative plays, that can definitely affect the outcome of games. Also, the conditioning with the weather temperatures and just how they're coming off the ball. Are they in sync? Again, we've had just two scrimmages for most of the teams, but again, the first game out of the gate, always interesting.
Off script for just a second here, Dan, but did you happen to catch any scrimmages of any teams?
Honestly, this year I was not able to go to any of those scrimmages, so I will say no.
Well, I went to the Handley scrimmage, sort of
Well,
took a look at what. No,
I will correct myself. I did see Handley, but I did not see Millbrook or Sherando. So yes,
no, okay,
but I
okay.
did see Handley scrimmage. But.
We will talk about Handley in just a second, but the game
Sure, sure.
on Friday that you're covering, traveling to Brentsville in a game again, excuse me, all these games are with Dan on Winchester's Classic Country 95.7. You'll be traveling up to Brentsville. To my knowledge, from what I've heard, is Brentsville has taken a step back. So I know they caused a lot of trouble except for with the Millbrook Pioneers, which you had the call for, where they beat Brentsville in that resumption of a game on Monday. So, regardless of that, Sherando traveling up to Brentsville this year, that was a close game last year. And Sherando, looking at Sherando, senior quarterback Micah Carlson, he usually always has weapons to throw to in in his offensive system. And defensively, you have two guys, James Walters and Caleb Nolan, on the defensive side, helping them as returners. But just looking at Sherando, what are you seeing from them?
Well, when you've got a quarterback coming back who's thrown for, I believe it was close to 3,000 yards last year, a positive touchdown to interception ratio, and a solid offensive line up front, the Warriors are definitely going to be a team to contend with. They lost at home to Brentsville last year, 28-21. They were driving late and then had a costly turnover, and Brentsville was able to run out the clock. So I'm sure that Sherando wants to get a little bit of payback for that loss and get off to a better start this year. They went on to make the playoffs, but lost in the first round to AC Glass last season. But I think you mentioned it. There's plenty of things positive about Sherando's football team, and this is going to be TJ Rohrbaugh's second year as the head coach at Sherando.
I find it interesting. You have Sherando, Handley, James Wood, and Strasburg in our local area with coaches that have the head coaches that have been with the program 2 or less seasons, but they all have a wealth of experience either with that same team or a different team around the area, which is very, very interesting to see. Do you find that trend pretty fascinating to see?
Yeah, it's not surprising. I mean, you're in the area and you got success, and other schools are noticing that, and you know you're right there seeing that success. So that's a great way to bring somebody on that you know about and that has had success. So it's not surprising at all to see that. And I guess I'm going to be with Sherando and then with Handley and Jake Smith. Those are, I think, two of the examples that you brought up. Those are cases where guys were actually, TJ's a little bit different than Jake as far as coming from another school in a different capacity, but it was at Sherando for a long, long time, and then now he's got the chance to be the head coach, so he jumped right on that, and then Jake moving over from Handley. But no, not surprising at all, and I think it's an interesting trend. It'll go back probably to somebody out of the area that you haven't heard of, but that's just kind of the way things are with folks in the athletic departments knowing folks from other areas, and so yeah, that's the way I see that.
So moving on to the trifecta of games on Winchester's Classic Country 95.7, joined by Dan Gloster. As always, appreciate your time with this, Dan. But Handley hosting Musselman. And if I'm correct, you have all the Handley home games. They only have 4 this year, correct?
That is correct. You say trifecta, I'll do one better for you. This is the triple palooza for Classic Country 95.7. It puts to shame week 0 in college football. It's triple palooza on 95.7. But what was your question? I didn't even. Yeah, we're going to do all 4 Handley home games, one in each month, actually. August, September, October, and November.
You're a frequent at Handley calling Handley games. So I want to get your thoughts. Does that make you the flagship home of Handley football?
I mean, unofficially, maybe. I've done my fair share of Handley games. Of course, when nobody else is on, nobody else is playing. Why not do them? So, but it's nothing quote official, but I'll take that if you're going to give it to me, Josh.
I just had to ask. Have some fun with you, but okay. So
Yes,
Handley,
of course.
Musselman. I don't know if you saw, but this is random. But Musselman put in a brand new turf field that looks absolutely incredible. Last year, Handley went up there. It was a high pressure game, so to speak, back and forth. I believe a couple lead changes in the game. Musselman ended up taking the win. But this year, this Handley football team looks a little bit different. Some younger guys, obviously, but you have Hassan Akanbi and the offensive line that has Jay-Sean Offit, who just committed to play at Wake Forest. The day I was at Handley camp, he was out there. I was interviewing him, and Coach Smith said he got the offer to Wake Forest that day. So one man, and not just him, but the entire offensive line, looks very, very knowledgeable, experienced. And I think that's a big plus for this Handley Judges football team. As last I saw, they had three quarterbacks battling out for a quarterback spot. One of them was a newer guy in Tristan Darling, I believe his name was, but three quarterbacks dueling it out for the starting spot. But to have a stellar offensive line like that really helps their cause.
No doubt. I mean, on the left side, you got Jay Sean and Jaquan Offit, left tackle, left guard, respectively, and that's, I would dare say, Josh, about easily 500 pounds on that left side of the line, just firing out every play. So my guess is they're going to be running left a fair amount, left up this gut, right. They're going to be running it hard, and then they'll use that play action to set up passing at times. So yeah, they've got when you've got younger players at the skill positions, not that Hassan is young, but the quarterback position will be at least inexperienced, if not class. I think Jake Prosser, Handley AD Reed Prosser's son, is a senior, but has not played hardly any at quarterback. He was a backup to Christian Metzger last year, and then you got Darling, a freshman, and then they have one other transfer in. But yeah, so if you've got a good, solid offensive line, that'll help a whole lot to get those quarterbacks, those younger, inexperienced players, get their feet wet without having to throw the ball every time and get pressure. You can rely on Akambi. He's going to be a tough player to bring down. You got JoJo Johnson back. He'll get to run the ball as well. And they have some good talent at wide receiver as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they try and use the pass as well. But it'll definitely be a run first team for Handley.
In defensively for Handley, have you seen anything different? I know historically in last year they had a pretty good defense, but have you seen anything else from them?
Just the JoJo Johnson. He'll be the leader. He was the leading tackler at linebacker for the Judges last year. He'll be the returning leader for them on defense. You'll have the Offit brothers playing a lot. And some of those other offensive linemen, I would imagine, will be going both ways. But that's one thing where I think in that game against Musselman, you mentioned, they had two leads in that game and gave up big passes right down the middle of the field. And that kind of proved to be the undoing for them on that night. So they're definitely going to want to try and shore up the pass defense and the defense overall.
So the Triple Palooza on Winchester's Classic Country 95.7 with Dan Gloster on the call. You have Thursday, Millbrook hosting Harrisonburg, Friday, Sherando traveling to Brentsville, and Saturday at the Handley Bowl, Handley hosting Musselman. Dan, just to wrap it up, I'm sure you're excited to get back in and call some exciting football. Am I right?
Always fun, man. Always fun.
It's always fun and always a pleasure catching up with Dan Gloster of Winchester's Classic Country 95.7. Dan, as always, really appreciate your time. Looking forward to continued conversations throughout the season, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Josh.